Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Thomas. You're watching an ABC 10 Plus recap of the top stories you may have missed. We're learning more about the victims who were on board a boat that capsized on Lake Tahoe over the weekend. Then an update in the ABC 10 investigation into Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools. The school is accused of fiscal mismanagement and misusing funds. The ABC 10 Plus recap starts now.
We start tonight with new information on that deadly boat accident on Lake Tahoe over the weekend. 8
people died after their boat capsized following high winds and waves on the lake.
Now we know the names of those victims. El Dorado County officials say Paula Bozinovich and Terry Pickles from Redwood City were in the boat, along with Joshua Pickles from San Francisco, who was an executive at DoorDash.
Other victims from Northern California are Peter Bays from Lincoln and Timothy O'Leary from Auburn.
The other 3 victims, Teresa Galari, James Guck, and Stephen Lindsay, were all from New York. We're also learning more about what happened as the boat took on water.
ABC 10's Luke Clary has the latest update.
An intense storm on Lake Tahoe Saturday kicked up massive waves. 10 people were tossed into the cold water when their boat capsized. 8 of them did not survive. Sam Singer is a spokesperson for one of the families.
These were good, wonderful, hardworking, loving people.
37-year-old DoorDash executive Josh Pickles leaves behind his wife, Jordan Sugar Carlsgard, and their 7-month-old daughter, who were on the trip but did not go out on the boat that day.
She's carrying a tremendous grief and mourning for her lost husband, his father, his mother, his uncle, other family and friends.
It was a trip to celebrate Josh's mother Paula's 71st birthday. The boat he owned with his father, Terry. The family experienced boaters.
This was the first time they were taking it out this year, beginning of summer almost, when tragedy struck.
Has the family been given any insight into what happened in those final moments, either from the survivors or from the authorities?
The family has learned from authorities that the storm came up so quickly that even the most prepared seagoing vehicle and skilled sailor would have been overwhelmed, which is exactly what happened. The boat took on water because there were 8 to 10 foot waves, the likes of which have never been seen on Lake Tahoe in modern times.
He says those waves flooded the engine, and the boat took on so much water it capsized. An entire family devastated in minutes. At Lake Tahoe, Luke Clary, ABC 10.
Our thoughts are with everyone involved in that tragedy. El Dorado County deputies have not released the names or conditions of the survivors or said if anyone on board was wearing a life jacket. New tonight, a scathing state audit has just been released on Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools. It came at the request of 4 state lawmakers after an ABC 10 investigation, the Wild West of education.
The audit confirms what ABC 10 investigative reporter Andy Judson has been uncovering for years. She's here now with the details. Andy, what did the audit reveal exactly?
Yeah, Chris and Laura, the state auditor found Highlands improperly took in more than $180 million in public education funds, money they should never have received. The report confirms ABC 10's findings and details wasteful spending, unlawful hiring, and violations of state law, including gifts of public funds and conflicts of interest. And while money poured in, student performance was so poor that it dragged down the state's graduation rate.
More than $180 million. That's how much money Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools received when they shouldn't have, the California State Auditor says, making it one of the largest charter school debacles in the history of California. But to the whistleblowers who came to ABC 10, it's not surprising.
Not at all. Not at all. And although I'm not surprised, I'm still incredibly disappointed.
The audit confirms Highlands wasted public funds and broke the law.
To me, it's just a big duh. Really, that was my reaction, was like, duh.
Thousands wastefully spent on items with no educational value. And it was not just staff benefiting from your tax dollars. Their families cashed in too. The audit details contracts handed to relatives, including nearly $400,000 since 2019 to a company owned by a Highlands director's spouse. And multiple contracts over $1 million were done with no board approval, violating the few policies they did have. And with no policies in place against nepotism or favoritism, Highlands hired and promoted unqualified friends and family members.
This is what happens when organizations and or leadership thinks they are untouchable.
And while the money flowed, students struggled. The audit says outcomes at Highlands were so low, they dragged down California's statewide graduation rate for the 2023-2024 school year. So who's responsible? Highlands Oversight Agency, Twin Rivers Unified, took nearly $13 million it cannot justify while doing next to nothing to provide real oversight. Even after a 2018 audit flagged critical issues that needed to be addressed, Twin Rivers renewed Highlands' charter anyway and even misled its own board about the school's performance. The audit also holds accountable the California Department of Education, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and Sacramento County's Office of Education, saying these agencies have the authority to provide oversight to charters like Highlands, but have not fully done so.
And I hope that we do create some new legislature or guidelines for oversight.
And with the audit's findings, it's now up to lawmakers and law enforcement to decide what's next. Highlands says it's launching reforms and has appointed a new executive director, Jonathan Raymond, who's the former superintendent of Sac City Unified. It's worth noting ABC10 has requested an interview with him. And Twin Rivers Unified responded saying they've worked in good faith with the auditors and they disagree with some of the findings, but they followed the law and are committed to improvement. Chris and Laura.
Yeah, powerful reporting, Andy. Thank you. The California Department of Education says they've taken specific actions to hold the school accountable and repeatedly raised concerns with Twin Rivers. You can watch all episodes of The Wild West of Education right now on our ABC10 Plus streaming app. It's free to download to your TV.
Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. And after months of debate tonight, it appears state lawmakers and Governor Newsom have reached a new state budget deal. ABC10's Jeannie Nguyen is at the Capitol with what's in the $330 billion bill.
There's been a lot of heated discussions here at the state capitol in reference to the budget when it comes to transportation, healthcare, and crime. All of this comes as the state is trying to close a $12 billion deficit.
The full budget is about $330 billion, about $230 billion of which is our general fund. We had a $12 billion deficit to close.
One of the major issues addressed in this budget, Medi-Cal for people without documentation. During the governor's May revise, he had suggested making changes to the program by requiring a $100 premium and freezing new enrollment. But Democratic Senator Scott Wiener says the program has been successful, and Democrats wanted to ensure nobody was left behind.
The governor proposed a $100 monthly premium for undocumented people on Medi-Cal. We reduced that by 70% to $30 a month, and we delayed its implementation by 2 years.
Adding that new enrollment will be paused starting January 1st. Republican Senator Roger Nilo says this is fiscally irresponsible to continue to fund Medi-Cal for people without documentation.
It just seems to be unaffordable, whether we have a surplus of funds or not. And it also seems to attract more undocumented immigrants into our state to receive funding like this that is not available in just about every other state in the union.
Funding for Prop 36, a proposition passed by voters last November, was added to the budget. The legislature agreed to put $110 million into the program.
But they still cut back probation. As I said, that's a problem. And $110 million really isn't enough for all of the efforts that need to be undertaken.
In response, Senator Wiener says it's better than nothing.
Despite having that massive deficit, we still found $110 million to fund Prop 36.
And when it comes to the controversial high-speed rail, the legislature agreed with the governor to provide $1 billion a year to the project for the next 20 years to complete the initial segment. Legislative analysts believe the state will have to tighten spending in years to come to prevent an even bigger deficit.
In out years, they are going to have to take more significant actions either by increasing revenues or by decreasing spending in some of these major areas.
The legislature is expected to pass the final budget for the governor to sign by Friday as the new fiscal year starts on July 1st. At the Capitol, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
And now to an update to a 10 on your side investigation. Protests against hydrogen vehicles started over the weekend at the Capitol, with even more planned in LA this weekend.
They told people that the cars would be reliable when they're not.
Attorney Jason Ingber represents clients across the Sacramento region who gathered at the Capitol with signs reading "Stop the Hydrogen Lies." He's launched a class action lawsuit against hydrogen car dealers, saying consumers are being misled about the viability of the cars in California, especially when it comes to fueling them.
You can look around in Sacramento itself, there's one station and it's down more often than it's up, and that's the only station that people have, otherwise they got to travel 60 miles out. Believe me, they're not telling them that at the dealership level.
10 on your side reached out to the operator of the fueling station. They say with only one hydrogen station operating in Sacramento since early 2024, fuel cell electric vehicle drivers rely on the Iwatani station for fuel. Iwatani has made a number of improvements over the last 18 months, including a virtual queuing app to reduce wait times on site. These efforts, among others, have resulted in an average station uptime of 90% since January 2024. But Ingber says the lack of infrastructure is leading to costly issues for people up and down the state. That's why they held this protest at the Capitol over the weekend, with another protest planned at LA City Hall this coming Sunday.
They still are selling the car. That's what really motivated us to come together.
You can read all of our reporting on the challenges some hydrogen car drivers say they're facing and learn more about the lawsuit on our website, abc10.com. Meanwhile, do you have a problem and don't know where else to turn? Email me at onyourside@abc10.com.
Tonight, we're hearing directly from immigrant farm workers. They're sharing their frustration with President Trump's back and forth on introducing new orders and directives.
Yeah, many of the immigrants in Acampo, for example, say they are afraid to even walk outside their homes in fear they may be detained by ICE. ABC 10's Roxanne Elias has a closer look.
Here in the great fields of Acampo, California, hundreds of farm workers show up early to earn their living.
Me levanto a las 4 de la mañana.
This farm worker says, I wake up at 4 a.m. And on top of working long hours in the heat, they also leave home in fear of being deported. Most of the workers are undocumented immigrants or in the process of legalization. The workers we spoke to are so afraid of ICE, they asked for their faces not to be shown.
Lo que me trae a este país es de...
Marcelo says, what brought me to this country is to work, progress, and get ahead for myself and my family. But in reality, we've been treated really bad by the president. That Marcelo says he and some of his co-workers were initially in support of Donald Trump becoming president because they thought farm workers would be treated better. But he says the president has given them his back by separating families and leaving children without their mothers or fathers following the raids in Los Angeles.
Toda la gente.
Marcelo says all the hard workers from here have brought the country forward. The father of 4 says without hardworking immigrants, the economy will go down. On Tuesday, Luis Magaña, a farm worker advocate, visits the fields to clear up any rumors of ICE raids. He says there's much confusion after the president's administration first directed immigration officials to pause raids on farms, hotels, and restaurants earlier this month, to just a few days later reversed it and resumed the raids.
Eso es una falta de respeto.
Magaña says that is a lack of respect because he's playing with the emotions of very noble workers. He believes the back and forth is making them feel frustrated because they then feel insecure and that they don't have any rights.
Porque tengo miedo de...
This father says, I'm afraid to come here and not be able to return to my home. And after 32 years of working in the fields, he says he and others deserve some type of legalization. Marcelo also has the same message for the president he once supported.
Presidente tiene que...
Marcelo says the president has to allow for people to work, to move forward, and to have a better future. In Acampo, Roxanne Elias, ABC 10.
And farm worker advocates want immigrant workers to know there are people who are in support of them and trying to help, saying there has to be a solution. And they say lawmakers need to find a way for workers to be here legally.
It's boiling. It feels like over 100 degrees out of here.
Parts of the country are dealing with extreme and dangerous heat today. New York City had its hottest temperatures since 1888. With highs reaching 100 degrees today, electrical grids are also struggling to keep up with demand as people are cranking up those air conditionings. And meanwhile, here at home, a completely different story. Monica, we're having a very mild and beautiful start to the summer this week.
So interesting. We had snow in the Sierra over the weekend.
Yeah, that breeze coming in from the Pacific certainly helping to keep us out of that extreme threshold, but it is definitely settled into the East Coast. Here's a look at our current temperatures, and really what I want to point out is you can see that we're still in the 90s. Keep in mind, they're 3 hours ahead. So places like Boston still at 96 degrees, Washington, D.C. 94, Cleveland at 88. Now I want to show you what it feels like. 101 in Boston. That just shows how oppressive the heat is because we've got humidity plus those hot temperatures, and it's really feeling quite warm even at this hour. We're at 8:20 in the evening for much of the East Coast, 96 for Atlanta, even hot for St. Louis, 96, feeling like 97 right now in Kansas City. It feels cooler in Phoenix at 95 degrees than many places across the East Coast. Now, comparatively, we are looking at some temperatures that are going to be a little bit cooler here on the West Coast. We've got that nice breeze, and so our temperatures are sitting in the mid 80s to right around the low 90s for our highs today. 80s for the foothills and 70s up top for the Sierra. A look at what we're expecting for tonight. These temperatures will be quite mild for us considering this time of year. 80s and low 90s still for much of the valley as we take that live look outside. Tahoe right now, sunny skies and 69 degrees. Hourly weather, we pick up just a few of those low clouds trying to come in. Cool breeze for tonight brings those lows into the 50s. We keep with the breeze for tonight. We get a hint of it again for tomorrow. Not so much for the morning, but more so for the late afternoon. And that's really the signal that we'll have at least the 90s for tomorrow, but not 100s. Now we still see building heat risk into the weekend forecast. It stays in place for Saturday and Sunday, and it's all because of this shift that we're watching overhead. We've got this high pressure ridge that will start to move its way overhead, and that brings sinking, warming air, a much more stable environment as well for the Sierra, so no more thunderstorms up there. Highs in the 70s, by the way, for tomorrow for the Sierra, with 80s and 90s down low. Just a little more heat coming into the forecast for tomorrow. 60s along the coast, and then we get into the 90s widespread throughout the valley. So this is going to be pretty much status quo through our Thursday as well. Not much change from Wednesday through Thursday. It's not until we get to the end of the work week through the weekend that you can see from the mountains, the foothills, and the coast, we start to get a little bit warmer here as the pattern shifts once again. But that's going to be pretty much the warmest part of our forecast here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with highs in the mid to upper 90s. Then we start to moderate things once again. Can you believe I've got 4th of July on the 10-day forecast? Oh my goodness. Next week we enter that 4th of July week and weekend. So yeah, everything feeling summer and sounding summer as we head into the 10-day forecast.
With no triple digits in sight.
Yet.
Wow, yet. We'll savor it while we can. Monica, thank you.
A Central Valley community is facing a dire deadline. Either approve a massive water rate hike or have their supply shut off. Diablo Grande, once envisioned as a golf resort paradise, is now at risk of going dry. ABC10's Luke Cleary has the story tonight.
A patchwork of green in the Stanislaus County foothills. The resort community of Diablo Grande is now at a crossroads.
The families who bought into life here at Diablo Grande bought into a dream. These hillside views, vineyards, golf courses, all of it built on a simple promise: a steady supply of water.
The sunburned hills surrounding the development offer a warning. This is what happens if the water pumped from the aqueduct stops. And now, the Western Hills Water District is proposing a massive rate hike just to keep the taps open.
We're on a shoestring here, and I can barely keep this district running and keeping clean water to everybody.
President Markovich faced a packed clubhouse in early June to deliver the uncomfortable message: pay more or risk losing your water. The Western Hills Water District supplies Diablo Grande with water from the Kern County Water Agency. In a letter, the Kern County Water Agency warned it will cut off service June 30th unless Diablo Grande property owners approve the hike from $145 a month to $569.
Or they say maybe they want a little more, maybe $700, $800. That's what's scaring me.
scaring all of us.
Okay, there's no answers though, is what I'm trying to figure out, the frustration.
How do you feel like this is going?
Not well.
Debbie Antigua heads the action committee organizing public meetings.
The residents are very concerned. They don't know whether or not they're going to have water.
The Kern County Water Agency says it's ending its contract with Western Hills because the district owes the agency more than $13 million and hasn't made a payment since 2019. The letter states that if the rate hike passes, Kern will keep the water flowing until December 31st to give Western Hills time to find another supplier.
You keep saying something about it's good until December.
Retired nurse Lydia Stewart is one of many asking hard questions.
We're on Social Security, limited income. What are we supposed to do?
She and her husband James say they put their life savings into a new home here in 2018.
What was that like for you?
A dream, because I've worked so hard. I've taken care of so many people.
But that dream home now hangs in the balance. They won't be able to sustain the higher rate for long on top of the mortgage and other bills.
We only have a certain income. That's why we picked up here, because we could afford just that. We didn't expect this big lump sum to be dumped on us.
We're victims in all of this, right? We've paid our bill.
Katie Whitney and her husband moved to Diablo Grande in 2012 to retire.
The dream was to, move up here, someday retire and, play golf every day.
The rate hike will be uncomfortable. What's unthinkable is losing water altogether.
When you're thinking about retiring and there's a possibility that your home won't be livable, it's a little bit more than your dream slipping away, right? There's a feeling of, how did we get here? How in the world did we get here?
And not on the fault of us. We've paid everything we've had to pay. It was the stuff that happened before we moved here.
What happened before is a long story. This was Diablo Grande in 2016, a world-class golf resort community built to expand. And here it is today. The golf courses closed, the grass dried out, and of the 5,000 homes promised, only a fraction, around 600, were ever built.
You bought this place in 2011. What was it like?
2011. It was awesome. Everything was green.
Doug Moore bought a home overlooking the 13th hole.
This is what it looked like when we moved in. It was a dream location for us.
He spent years trying to help other homeowners understand how it came to this.
The first instinct they had when they see a rate increase that's triple what they were paying, is one of anger, and it hit them by surprise. I wasn't surprised. I've been following this for years.
The Western Hills Water District blames the former developers for the millions in unpaid water bills to Kern County Water Agency. Initially, the developers subsidized the cost of water to boost growth. But when the housing project stalled and the developers effectively went out of business, the payments stopped and the debts piled up.
I worry about it every day. Keeps me up at night.
With time running out, the new board now scrambling for a new water source for Diablo Grande, asking state and local leaders for help.
Everybody is just very frustrated that nobody wants to do anything. The answers we get is, you're on your own.
Stanislaus County officials say they can't intervene either.
It is an issue that must be handled here locally with a local district. I know that's a tough answer, that's a tough message.
And Debbie Antigua says her calls to the state have led nowhere.
We've called for the community to, email all these agencies, and they have. And they just, we're forwarding you on to another agency. Okay, which one? Because nobody's coming.
It's a common question here. Is anyone coming to help? We also reached out to the state. The Department of Water Resources and the governor's office say this is a local matter, and the state has no official role in resolving it.
It's very hard to believe that, there isn't an entity that can come forward and help us find a solution, find a way out of this.
Just work with us and find a solution is what we're asking, and they won't even talk to us.
The resort community built on a dream in the rugged California foothills. now fighting to stay afloat. For now, the water is still flowing, but at what cost and for how long? In Diablo Grande, Luke Clary, ABC 10.
The Western Hills Water District is in talks with the Patterson Irrigation District about a potential water supply solution, but a new pipeline could be years away. The rate hike decision comes on Saturday, so I think it goes out saying we are going to continue following this story.
Welcome back in. I'm Kevin John. Folsom High School quarterback Ryder Lyons is used to making tough decisions in split seconds while on the field. But off the gridiron, there's one decision he's been stewing on for quite a while until today.
It's been a long decision. Hardest choice of my life.
The five-star quarterback entered Tuesday as the top-ranked uncommitted quarterback in the nation. So needless to say, football fans all over the country were anxiously awaiting his decision.
I'll be committing to Brigham Young University. Go Cougs!
Out of all the top programs in the country vying for Ryder's talents, which includes Oregon and USC, why BYU?
Create your own path. There is something being said about BYU. I mean, they've been good, but I think coming in and being a part of something bigger than me, creating this whole legacy is cool.
Ryder's faith also played a significant role on why he selected BYU.
Just in my life, with my faith, like decisions, sometimes you're not going to have a clear answer, so you have to just go for it and take that leap of faith and just be all in.
It also didn't hurt that there's some history with the Lyons family and BYU.
I have a lot of family who went to BYU. My sisters, my parents met there.
And Ryder's parents have been there for him every step of the way.
I have 5 children, but he's an anomaly. Like, he really, really just loves competition. He loves to be the best version of himself.
After graduating high school, Ryder will take a year off to serve on a mission before joining BYU for the fall 2027 season.
But faith is an active principle, so he's showing it, and it's pretty cool.
And what is BYU getting in Ryder?
Competitor, a hard worker. I'm gonna work every single day as hard as I can. Just a winner. I don't like to lose.
And I could attest to that. The man does not like to lose, and all he's done is won in his high school career, so I know he's going to do wonderful things at BYU.
Thanks for watching this ABC 10 Plus recap. We are here 24/7 on the free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. You can get your local news and weather anytime, anywhere. I'm Chris Thomas. We'll see you next time.
We're in day 1 of a weather impact alert.
Tracking a couple big weather impacts, including a red flag warning and big heat developing.
Heavy rain continues. I hear it on the roof right now. We're already seeing the impact of the storm.
We're planning for those changes.
Triple-digit heat leading to cancellations and concerns.
Stay fire ready.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on ABC 10 Plus.